look at our weather forecast today.
Today's forecast, a lot of sunshine, blue skies, marine clouds. It's a perfect day to go outside and relax. That's your forecast. We'll be right back.
Yeah, sunny days, sunny days, sunny days. No clouds in the sky, but I get away. Feels like it's been a freaking decade. Sorry, don't call me, cause I'm gonna be on break. Sunny day, make way. All the stress and doubt, yeah, not today. Feels like it's been a freaking decade. Sorry, don't call me, cause I'm gonna be on break. Got the Tropicana, fresh cut sushi on a platter. Ready, honey, it don't matter, shots. Till I drop, gonna be 24/7, golden hour like a boss.
So I never record myself eating, and it's probably because I'm a super messy eater and I use a spoon for pretty much everything, including to eat avocado toast. So I'm not about to record me eating this meal. But I did want to say, I really appreciate this meal. One, because avocado toast is freaking awesome. But two, because I grew up having to clean my plate, and as you saw, I had this bowl of mush. Basically, it was I forget what I put in it. This like ground beef textured vegetable protein that I got, some olives, some flax seeds, sunflower seeds, hemp seeds, zucchini, a little bit of cauliflower. I scrambled all that up last night. I started to eat it and I thought, this is good. I had a few bites. I really enjoyed it. And like, I'm just gonna save this for tomorrow and have something else because I really wanted something sweet. And that was a huge win. There's something about being able to recognize that I'm satisfied and full, or that I want something else, and be able to put the bowl away, save it for a later time. And then I got to repurpose it for this crazy, messy, gooey, oopy, not aesthetic looking avocado toast. And it's more of a representation of being so in tune with my body that I'm able to walk away from a meal, which is something that I never thought I could do. I grew up in the Clean Your Plate Club. You ate everything on your plate. If you wanted dessert, you had to eat all of your savory food first. With bodybuilding, it's like you have to eat everything on your plate, in your bowl, in your Pyrex, Tupperware, you know, and being able to shift my focus and be more in tune with my body and honor it has been a massive win and more of a recent development in my journey with intuitive eating. So I'm excited to talk to you more about where I'm at with that. Definitely want to kind of give you the lowdown on where the last few weeks have taken me with that. And right now I'm going to enjoy this and then I will catch up with you after. So it's August 25th. Confirmed. It's August 25th. It is Thursday and I am rounding out my week of sabbatical. You may have seen on my Instagram that I posted that I was going to be out of office on sabbatical, and I did just that. I decided to get away for a few days. I felt that my stress and anxiety was starting to build up to the point where I felt pretty disconnected from myself. I was feeling very complacent in a lot of areas, feeling indecisive and unsure, and overall just receiving a lot of cues from my mind and my body that I needed a break and I needed an actual vacation that involved not having anything particular to do. I live by a series of to-do lists, so it's really hard for me to turn off. My first real job was in a pharmacy and we learned lean training. And lean training is all about creating the shortest path to get from destination A to destination B and just being as efficient as possible, cutting out all unnecessary movement and steps in a process. And granted, it was a warehouse setting, it made sense. But I feel like my brain gets stuck in that mindset a lot, where I feel like I need to be as efficient as possible all the time, as productive as possible. If I'm doing anything that's not productive by a worldly standard, I start to feel really guilty and I can't even focus on what I'm doing or enjoy what I'm doing. And it'll get to the point where I could be in a conversation and I find my mind drifting away to the things that I should be doing on my to-do list, and I disconnect with my true purpose in life, which is to love others. That's it, to be love, to represent love to the world. And if I am so caught up in my to-dos and my sense of superiority and importance because of these things that I think are the priority in a situation, outside of showing love to that person, I am so disconnected from my purpose and who I am, and I quickly spiral into a sense of complacency and frustration. So instead of allowing things to boil up to the point where I hit an emotional wall, which is my usual response, and seldom happens, but when it does, it can be very debilitating and leave me just feeling extremely down and frustrated and questioning my purpose, I noticed the warning signs. I said, I'm gonna take the time to get away. So on Thursday, I drove out to Wilmington and I just spent the night in a hotel. I got some work done. I really just enjoyed being alone, having time to drive and listen to audiobooks and just reflect, which was awesome. I feel like a car drive is a great opportunity to reflect and be really present. And there are times when I'm in the car and I won't listen to anything at all because it really helps me just hear myself and hear God speaking through me as to what it is that I should be doing and what I should be focusing on, and where maybe my mind has gone off track and distracted me with things of the world and things that don't necessarily pull me towards my purpose. So Thursday night was awesome. I really enjoyed that time. And then Friday morning, I got up, opened the window, and it was pouring rain. And what I anticipated as just a sunny, bright beach trip, imagining myself driving down the coast, suddenly became more of an opportunity to reflect, which I think is exactly what I needed. So Friday morning, I braved the rain. I actually love the rain. And I headed out to Whole Foods to get some work done, as I had a couple of client plans to complete before the weekend. The weekend was a time where I really wanted to turn everything off, just focus on not having any plans and just going where I feel like my heart was calling me. So it was important that I took care of what I needed to on the front end. And I enjoyed that time at Whole Foods, just sat there and worked. And then I really felt pulled to go to Barnes & Noble. So I drove over there. Maybe that's not a godly calling. That is definitely just a personal passion to wander around Barnes & Noble. I drove over there in the pouring rain. We had to drive about 20 miles an hour. I say we because it was just me and all these other cars just like inching through this like river in the middle of the road. And I made it there safe and sound, soaking wet. Thank God I had my Vibrams on. I was just like flopping around in Barnes & Noble with wet feet flippers. Grabbed a coffee and walked around and just gathered a few books. So I got the Bhagavad Gita, which is something I've been wanting to read for a while now. And then I got Dante's series. I'd like to get into that as well. It's a little bit denser, and I didn't start that this weekend, but it's something I want to read. And then I got Circe, which is a fiction tale of Circe, who you might know from the story of Odysseus. And I'm really excited because I started reading it and it's freaking awesome. But just a nice little variety of things. Then I drove to St. James, and by then the rain was letting up. It was safe to drive, and I really enjoyed my drive out there. I wound through these back roads and realized how rural the area was, and made it to an absolutely beautiful Airbnb that was really secluded and a really beautiful community. There was a recliner, which is such an amazing thing to have when you want to meditate and read. Just saying, having just gotten a couch after living here for months and months and months, I can't even say how important it is to have somewhere where you can just sit and relax. So having like a recliner was really cool. And then I had like a whole little unit to myself, and there was this little yard in the back with a patio, and it was just beautiful in nature. So I spent a couple days just reading some more, reading a little bit more. I meditated, and on Saturday and on Sunday I went out to the beach. And the beach is just a special spot for me because it's tied in with some childhood memories of recognizing how vast the world is. It's similar to looking up at the stars. You just realize, you just gain perspective on you and your life and how small it is in the big picture, but how amazing it is that there's a God who created all of these things, but also spent so much time creating you. And you realize, as complicated as your life can seem, it really is so simple in the big picture. And as cliche as it may sound, being able to watch as you make these footprints and looking back as the water washes them over and realizing this ocean's been there for longer than we can even fathom, and that these shells that wash up, who knows how old they are and where they've been, and just the cycle of life that you see in that environment is just so incredible, and it really grounds me in a lot of ways. So Saturday morning and Sunday morning I went for walks on the beach. Went for an hour or more and just listened to what I wanted to. Sometimes walked in silence, just checking out everything around me. It was absolutely amazing. And I spent some time just cooking and enjoying that, which is a passion that I have, really being present with the food and making sure that I was tuning into my body as I'm honoring this process of intuitive eating. I found that as my stress dissolved and as I came back to myself, my focus on food diminished, which is a lesson that I've been learning throughout this process of intuitive eating. So much of my stress around food or anxiety around what I'm eating or the way my body looks has to do with a much deeper sense of dissonance in myself that often comes from not checking in with myself, not aligning myself with my purpose, not giving myself what I need. So food is an easy and quick way to change our state of being. So we turn to it very naturally. It's something that's been used for comfort, been used for reward throughout most of our lives, especially in this culture. And so we turn to it because it's the one thing that we know that we can have, we absolutely have to have, and it can immediately change our emotional state, at least for the time being. But with that, we're not always addressing the deeper issues if the food we're eating is being used to soothe a feeling, or being used to cover up a feeling, or being used to fill a void that is created by something else. So it was so cool to be in that environment and just see that all take place, where I felt like, wow, I can be really present with my food and enjoy it and love the process of cooking, because that's something that's personal to me. But I'm not drawn to it, and I'm not thinking about it all the time. I'm not worried about my next meal. I'm not subconsciously counting calories. I'm not thinking about how active I'm being. I just went for walks. I didn't train at all. I enjoyed what I ate. I focused on recharging, and honestly just soaked in the opportunity to not have to have a to-do list at all. By Sunday morning, I was feeling pretty restless and realized it's time to go home. I really anticipated being gone for an entire week. Thought I'd finish out my time at the Airbnb. That would have been Monday morning. And then probably head down the coast, maybe drive all the way down to Savannah, as I've never been there. Like, I had all these ideas, and then as Sunday approached, I realized I don't really want to do any of it without Dee, to be honest. But also, as I studied the Bhagavad Gita and just reflected on my faith and spent time talking to God and spent time alone and just reflected on what it is that I want to bring to this world and the impact that I want to make, the seeds that I want to plant so that others can be lifted up through my experience of life, or through what I can possibly share through what I've learned and the things that I've gone through, being able to recycle them and use them to lift others up. I can only do so much if I'm out here alone. So I need that time to recharge and be alone and connect with self and make sure that I'm talking to God and that I know where I'm at and know what I need to do. But then you gotta get out there. And even if that means spending a little bit more time each day alone, reflecting, turning off the devices, stepping away from the to-do lists, I think that is probably a little bit more effective to be centered long-term than needing to get to the breaking point and having to take time away. I think that's valuable too. I think vacations are necessary. But for me, what I learned is that I need to set time in the day where it's just me and God, nothing else, no one else. And then once I'm centered, I'm so much more available to other people emotionally and physically and mentally, and I can be of service at a higher level because I know who I am and what my purpose is. And so I can come from a place of confidence and a place of groundedness in my relationships with others. So it was an incredible experience. I really, really enjoyed it. If you're feeling run down, if you're feeling like you don't know what you want, or you're just frustrated, and if you're like me and you find yourself kind of irritated with certain aspects of your life, but then having this rebound feeling of, I'm just ungrateful because I should be enjoying these things, or these are things I asked for, or other people have it harder, it's time to just stop. Step away. There's a reason that your soul feels weighed down or dissonant, and it's important that you come back to yourself. That's vital. I think one lesson in the Bible that we learn a lot is that God speaks in the stillness, and we have to be quiet in order to hear him at times. So it's important to come back to ourselves and give ourselves that space. And for those of you who have like super busy lives where you're also managing a family and you have kids, that may mean saying, hey, honey, I need a day to myself. And actually take that time, not to catch up on all these other activities, but to be alone and to really listen to yourself and do what you want. And you'll find that what you want to do usually isn't toxic. It's when we're each day spending time pushing down these feelings, then we get to this period of time where we want to rebel, or where we finally get some time to ourselves, then we do all these toxic behaviors. We like whatever, we smoke weed, or we binge watch reality TV, or we binge on food, or we go on a shopping spree that wasn't necessarily helpful for our budget. Like, we turn to those things because we just need a break, and those are the quickest things we know to turn to change our emotional state. So instead of doing that, take actual time alone, and you'll find that you don't really want to do those things. You just want to feel at peace. And you can find a helpful and supportive way to do that without it being toxic behavior. Okay, so that was it on my sabbatical. I could keep talking about it forever because I really feel like I learned so much and recharged. But I really wanted to catch you up on where I'm at with intuitive eating. So earlier you saw the meal, you saw that I was able to eat leftovers, which leftovers isn't a concept that I've grown accustomed to in my life. If you know my story, I developed anorexia in high school. I think I had disordered eating long before that. My family history involves lots of disordered eating on both ends of the spectrum, like intense overeating, binging, and intense restriction over exercising. So I saw both as a child and found myself kind of caught between the two, and more often than not turning to food for comfort. So in middle school and high school, I really started to notice that I was turning to food. I was binging at night when I was alone, and my weight started to come up, and I was really not emotionally aware of what it was that I needed, but it definitely was emotionally triggered. I got tired of gaining this weight. I felt like I was out of control. I wanted a sense of control in my life, and I decided to start restricting, and I started counting calories, and I started restricting food, and I found that I loved the momentum, and I kind of enjoyed the pain of hunger, and it was just a toxic spiral And it was the one thing in my life that I felt I could control, and no one else could force me to eat no matter how hard they tried. And I masked it in this sense of superiority and elevated discipline that other people just couldn't possibly understand. I started exercising a ton. This is when I started lifting and really actually loving it, and that was a major positive thing that came out of all of this. But I started dropping weight, and I loved that momentum of it, and I continued to cut out more and more food until I was barely eating. And then right before college, I went on a trip to the college that I was going to, Lipscomb University, and I ended up having a panic attack. And it wasn't the first time this had happened, but I hadn't called it that before. Basically, I felt intense chest pain. I felt like I suddenly could not breathe. I was taken to the ER, everything checked out, but they did say that I was severely underweight. I started going to counseling again, and they informed me that I would need to go to an inpatient facility if I did not get my eating under control. So I started refeeding and eating and branching out a little bit from my gluten-free, dairy-free, meat-free, nut-free diet. And slowly and surely I gained weight, and it's been an ongoing up and down process since then, especially with the introduction of bodybuilding and the necessary weight fluctuations that come from that. But that's the over and under of my history with eating. In bodybuilding, you know, I realized I got to a certain point with food that was probably the wall that I would need to overcome if I wanted to continue moving forward in my relationship with food. That wall being a transition to intuitive eating or away from a bodybuilding diet. So in March-ish, May, I decided, you know what, I'm leaving bodybuilding behind. I need to address my relationship with food in my body. I no longer want to take any steroids. I feel like that's just increasing the disconnection from my body. And it's really important that I get my mental health in a good spot, because only out of that am I going to be able to address these issues with food. I decided to leave bodybuilding behind and embrace intuitive eating, and it's been this up and down journey since then that has been massively informative and super restorative. So I am 16 weeks into my journey with intuitive eating, which is absolutely wild to think about. It's been a crazy journey, and just when I think that I'm getting a grasp on what it means to eat intuitively, I learned something else that teaches me that I have a long way to go, and that's okay. I'm learning to embrace it and learning to just trust that, as with everything in life, it's about the process and the learning through the process and the embracing of growth that happens at each stage. It's not about this end point where at some point I'll say, now I eat intuitively and I have no issues around food. Will I get there? I have no idea. I come from a background of disordered eating, and I'm not sure I ever really ate intuitively. So I don't know if there's something to get back to or a new goal to be attained, as I think this is a very easy coping pattern that I've turned to in my life in a way. So it's probably going to be the one that I go back to under times of stress. But now I can deal with it with so much more awareness and joy for the process, and really loving the food that I'm eating and loving my body through the process. So intuitive eating, here's the book. It's an actual method, and it has 10 principles that go along with it. I won't get into that. I'm currently pursuing my certification to become a certified intuitive eating counselor. So if you have any questions on that, I will complete that by the end of the year. I'd be happy to talk to you more about that. But I've learned a lot through my journey with it. There's a workbook that comes with it that's really helped me kind of work through some of my behaviors and thoughts and background around eating, and remove the guilt and the shame that comes with it, and move forward with practical, tangible methods and skills to improve my relationship with food and my body. So where am I at now? I think now I'm probably in the best spot that I've ever been, and a lot of it can be attributed to having taken this sabbatical week, which is why I wanted to take some time to talk about that. I've seen directly how stress really impacts my relationship with food and reduces my ability to be objective and remove emotion from food. Just seeing how my relationship with food shifted immediately as that stress dropped off was really revealing to me, and it's going to be helpful moving forward. Now when I see myself turning to food or thinking excessively about food or worrying about it or examining my body in a negative way, I'll use it as a cue to remember, okay, I'm missing something, I need to recharge, or I'm feeling unfulfilled in an area, and it's time to self-reflect. I'm really excited to see what that process looks like and continue to improve this relationship with food. So that's where I'm at right now. There's been a lot of ups and downs. It's an ongoing journey, and I'm honestly just so grateful that I'm at where I'm at. I had no idea it would be this hard, but I had no idea that I would be where I am now. I really thought that I'd give this a shot and that I would have to go back to a meal plan because I wouldn't be able to regulate food, or that I would have to go to an extreme like Stephanie Buttermore, who had to go all in and eat until she really felt full, and she had to gain a lot of weight through that process, and that's something that really, really worried me, but I was willing to do if I had to heal this relationship. And I'm just so grateful that it's been a little bit more straightforward than that, and I've been able to come back to or develop a healthy relationship with food for the first time. And I'll continue to build on that relationship just as with any relationship, but it's definitely helped me as a coach, as a person, as even an athlete, as I still consider myself an athlete, to be so much more centered and to take back my power from this thing that I felt like controlled my life for so long. So that's where I'm at. I will definitely keep you guys updated on the journey and would be happy to answer any questions if any of you are thinking about embracing a lifestyle of intuitive eating or just taking the plunge. I would be happy to talk to you. It's scary, it's overwhelming, but it's also really exciting, and there's a lot of hope embedded in the idea that maybe there's a way of eating that doesn't require restriction, that doesn't require obsession and counting and overthinking, and maybe there is a way to just maintain a steady weight or steady body composition. Or maybe there's a way to stop weighing and stop worrying about it and realize that your body can maintain really well, which is something that I've learned as well through this process. So again, I'd be happy to talk to you about that. If you would like to talk about that, comment below, or you can always email me. On to my day with food. So I'm gonna give you the full day of eating. You've already seen meal one. That was an awesome avocado toast with some leftovers from last night. And I will just walk you through the rest of the day and my meals. And honestly, it's a rest day, so I'm not gonna train. I'm just gonna show you my food, take it from there. So thank you guys so much for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe, as that really supports the channel and helps me keep this going, helps me know that this is providing value for you. There's gonna be a lot more content to come. I'm absolutely loving making YouTube videos again, which has been a cool thing to come back to. So stay tuned. Be sure to check in on my Instagram as well, always releasing content there. And if there's anything that you'd like to see, as always, comment below. And be sure to share this. If you know anyone who has been considering intuitive eating or has struggled with food in the past and this may be helpful for them, feel free to share it with them. It might give them some insight into what it would look like to even embrace that process. And again, I'd be happy to talk to anyone who needs some guidance or support as they go into this. All right, I could talk forever. Please remember to like and subscribe. Click that subscribe button below right now, and I will see you guys next time.